Welcome to another episode of Meet the Founders. On today's show, we have Brenton Hayden, who, after being fired at the age of 19 from a six-figure job, started a company, a property management company called Renters Warehouse, and retired at the age of 27. Brenton, how you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. Thanks for having me on your show.
Well, you're welcome. It's awesome to have you here. You have an amazing story, and I touched upon it lightly in my intro, but talk to us and give us the overview of Brenton Hayden and what Renters Warehouse is and how everything got started.
That'd be my pleasure. Renters Warehouse is a business I started in 2007. It is a professional landlord service, and if you need an explanation of what that means, is we help everyday homeowners and real estate investors to rent and manage their real estate. And if you know anything about the real estate market, 2007, I must have struck gold when it comes to timing, because I really timed it right. And that was no luck, but I was in real estate for about a year before I started my own real estate company. And prior to that, I was a sales rep for a Fortune 500 company where I was really kicking butt at a very young age, and then got fired over some misunderstandings, and it really set me on a different path. Then I got into real estate again and worked with one of the biggest brokers, and not long after working for him, I got fired again. And this time I was fired for, not a misunderstanding, but frankly, he told me I was too entrepreneurial and I was going to be his competition one day. Well, he was probably right, because 6 months ago I bought his company, my first real estate job, and enrolled it into mine now. But nonetheless, I was set on another path. Fired twice in 2 years. By the time I was 20, I'm pretty demoralized. I had some successes, but neither one of them had much tenure to them. So I decided to start my own business, heeding the advice of the guy who just fired me, and it was one of the best things I ever did. Our first year, we almost did $1 million in revenue. Our second year, $2 million, and now we're about to be a $20 million company this year. I retired last year, October, and we're currently managing about $2.5 billion worth of residential real estate in 11 markets.
That's amazing. So, for all of us that aren't in real estate, what exactly is involved in property management? And really, when I was reading your article, really what set you apart to say, oh, I'm going to, do property management for these people, instead of just, because I saw that you were calling people up the first day.
Yeah.
So what made you say, I'm gonna do property management instead of just, I'm gonna find you tenants?
Yeah, well, at first I didn't do property management. At first I was just a tenant placement service. You could hire me to rent your rental property for you. And then later, because this was new to me, I had never done this before. I'd actually been evicted before, and I got inspired to learn more about the rental market. And as a result, I just said, there's got to be a better way to do this. And I couldn't find anybody to replicate or duplicate. In fact, I just had to innovate myself and create this based on what I thought the customer base wanted. Well, going back to your first question, what a property manager does, and it's unique that you chose that word, property manager. We like to, we know that most people don't know what a property manager does. They often relate it with commercial real estate, but when we say things like we're a professional landlord, people often get it a little better than when we say we're a property manager. But as a professional landlord, we're going to market and advertise, help show the property to prospective applicants, screen and conduct background searches, and help the homeowner approve or deny a potential tenant and move that tenant in through the inspection process. And then if that homeowner would like us to manage the property, we'll do things like collect the rent, coordinate maintenance, enforce the lease, do your monthly accounting, handle evictions. Frankly, when you hire us as a property owner to rent your property, we become your professional landlord. In fact, most tenants will never know that homeowner really exists, and because we're the face of the property. We're the landlord for the property owner. And our fees are just like $79 a month. And so you get access to my 130 plus property managers to manage your property, instead of, perhaps a busy executive or a busy family person who's got a lot of extracurricular activities going on. Maybe they have some kids. They just don't have time to chase down the rent or do their monthly accounting on the property or become an expert in real estate investing, because frankly, when you rent a property, you're taking on a lot of liabilities, and you're assuming a lot of new laws you may not be aware of. Well, you need an expert. You need to be an expert landlord to avoid those pitfalls. And by hiring us, we give you kind of a worry-free rental experience. But we have a value proposition that is unmatched by our competition. Most people ask, well, why wouldn't I do this on my own? Or why you over this other company here? Well, we know that homeowners and investors have three fears. They're fearful of lost rent, they're fearful of property damage by the tenant, and they're fearful of the eviction process, the costs associated with it, and the unknown with respects to the process involved with an eviction. So we actually pioneered and innovated three new programs called Rent Protect, Property Protection, and Eviction Protection. You can buy one all together or bundle them, and that reduces your risk, reduces your fear and anxiety about renting the property. For example, our guaranteed rent product guarantees the rent for up to 6 months. Our property protection program, that puts $100,000 property damage insurance coverage on the property, the tenant, the property manager, and the homeowner, and the deductible is just $100. And then as far as the eviction program goes, for $10 a month, over and above your management fee, we'll cover all costs associated with an eviction if and when that were to happen. So it's like it's an insurance product for the costly process associated with an eviction. That, coupled with the fact that you can cancel our services at any time, there is no cancellation fee, the fact we have to earn your business day in and day out. Our contracts are non-exclusive. We only get paid via performance-based. So, for example, our management fee is only collected when the rent's collected. Our tenant placement commission is only collected when we move in a tenant that's approved by the investor or homeowner. So we've really removed all the barriers of why you wouldn't hire us, and we've given you all the reasons of why you should, because we have proprietary services you can't access anywhere. And by accessing my services for affordable rate, which are tax deductible, you reduce your risk and you create a worry-free experience, and you get more of your time back to go to little Susie's softball game, or to spend those extra hours at work, or do things you like instead of things you don't like or are moonlight trying to do as a landlord.
That's really amazing. I mean, that's pretty much a risk-free business model. And if I was a tenant, if I was a landlord right now, and that was a pitch, I would be hooked, because you just took away all the worries.
It goes even further. We have a value proposition to our tenants as well. They can pay their rent online in about 5 different ways. They can automate the rent payments. They can make maintenance requests online. We do move-in and move-out inspections that are on video. So there's no discrepancy on what stain or what mark on the wall was there and wasn't there before. We're protecting everybody's best interest. We're very understanding of the fact that this is a two-way street, being a middleman. Now, while our home investors are our paying clients, they're paying us to be a good landlord. And so a couple of years ago, we launched a Love Your Landlord campaign with the idea that we're going to become the most coveted and tenant-friendly property management company in the country. And in just 2 short years later, we've developed over 5,000 plus reviews on the internet, from Yelp, the Better Business Bureau, to Google Places and whatnot, of having now become the most highly reviewed property management company in the country. Not just from our tenants, but also from our owners. And that's a real accolade there, because if you know anything about being a landlord, a homeowner wants to get things done cheaply, and they want to take their time, get multiple bids, and they're trying to run that property as a business. And a tenant, on the flip side, wants to make this a home. And when the AC goes out, they want it fixed tomorrow, and they don't care what it costs. It's not their problem. So it's really tough to be in the middle of that and to make sure that everybody's expectations are properly set, and then from there delivered upon in a way that everybody's happy. The homeowner wants a cheap service and done quickly. The tenant doesn't care and wants it done quickly. Think of the security deposit, for example. Most tenants think they get it all back, and most homeowners want to keep it all the time. That's one of the most contested things we do as a property manager, is really provide clarity, transparency, and accountability with respect to security deposits. That was one of the quickest ways we were able to establish ourselves as a tenant-friendly landlord, by being very sophisticated and very accountable in how we handle security deposits. So there's no more fraud, there was no more taking advantage of homeowners or tenants, but very streamlined, very fair, very accountable process through our innovative video move-in and move-out inspections, for example.
That's amazing. It seems like you kind of learned everything that there is to know about being a landlord, and handling tenants. And my question really is that, real estate is the oldest business in the world, right? One of the oldest businesses in the world. And, you started one of America's biggest, professional landlord companies only 7 years ago. So How did you learn all these things, and how did you learn all this information to make you one of the top companies in the United States.
Times are changing. What got me interested in the property management space? Well, I learned a little something. I went to MIT in Cambridge, Massachusetts, and I learned a little something about entrepreneurial development. And one of the things I learned there was understanding market size and market competition. I want to put something in perspective. The residential property management market is roughly $69 billion a year of revenue generated in the United States, according to the IRS. The largest company in residential property management, when I got into this, was a $22 million company. So in a $69 billion industry, the largest company was $22 million. That shows to me it's very fragmented, lots of small operators. Right. So that was the first aha moment. And then I looked at that company, and that company had been around about 20 years, and that's about the most that they have been able to establish themselves with. And then I said, well, how big is 69 billion? You know, that seems like, it doesn't, I don't know, in the scope of the entire United States, it doesn't seem like it's that big. So I wanted to put that in perspective. And when I found out it's actually bigger than the entire smartphone industry. So I'm in a giant industry where there's no 800-pound gorilla. There's my second light bulb, and I say, okay, there it is. Now, how do I get to the 800-pound gorilla? What's everybody doing wrong, and why are people so fragmented and bouncing around, and why are these landlords so poorly reviewed on the internet? It was sophistication, it was technology, it was execution, it was value proposition. What I found is this market was completely undeveloped. Technology came, and none of them kept up with the times. And as a result, none of them were growing. The industry was changing to become more efficient and technology orientated, and I saw that as, let's be a technology company first, property management company second, and that's exactly what we did. And now we're able to manage more properties with less people, but do a better job, all the while passing on a lower cost to our client by giving them, but yet a better value proposition. That right there was the cure. And in just 7 years, we're about to be, well, now we're the second largest in the country, still behind that $22 million company, but hopefully next year, we'll be the largest professional landlord service in America, and we did it in just 8 years. And our goal from there then is to take this from a $20 million company upwards to a $100 million company in the next 5 to 7 years.
Wow, that's amazing. So you really just took a sleeping dinosaur and you just revived it and turned it on its head. Yeah. Which is, I mean, a lot of people, you touched upon, the smartphone industry, and a lot of people actually today, they're going into tech. They're really thinking about building apps, and I mean, a lot of people don't see that there's so many other opportunities outside of technology if you're not a tech-based person, right? Mm-hmm. So that's amazing. And you started in 2007. So I mean, all entrepreneurs have failures, and really the successful people are the ones that are able to deal with those failures. So how did you deal with 2008 and what happened, and how did you succeed to make it 2014? We had a lot of trials and tribulations along the way. We started with only $3,000 in our corporate bank account, and we had to bootstrap this company from day one. Essentially, I deferred income because I was a young man. I was 21 when I started the company, 21, and I was a young man. I didn't have many bills. I had not yet gone to college. I lived very meager, and I was really dedicated to working and living in my business. And so for the first 2 years, my highest wage or my highest income was $31,000. Now, I easily could have taken home $100,000 or $200,000 those years, but I reinvested all the profits back into doubling my advertising budget nearly every quarter. And I found success in radio advertising. But at any given time, if I were to hit a doldrum or another bump in the road, I only had maybe 1 or 2 months of runway before the business was going downhill. Now, try running a business like that where you're growing so fast, but all it takes is one major mistake or 1 or 2 months of bad revenue generation, and you're out of business, and you got everything on the line. I lived that way for 5 or 6 years, and then I finally was able to get more. As you get larger as a company, you're able to find efficiencies and scale. In fact, every year I'm in business, I'm dropping a higher EBITDA percentage down to the bottom line, or overall net profit percentage. I'm finding that as I gain larger size, I'm able to be more efficient as a company, yet more profitable. And in those early stages, you got to remember that. So
the challenges I faced then were really stress, sleepless nights, long hours, and just having no stability in life as an entrepreneur when you're building a business, a rapid growth business that just, you're putting everything in all the time. If you do it that way and you make those sacrifices and you put that time and dedication in, the goal is that one day it'll reward you. Well, it was about year 5 that it started rewarding me, where I was starting to make several $100,000 a year as the owner, and then several $1,000,000 a year. And now I decided at this point I can retire. And that to me was my ultimate goal. And looking back at that, I would do it all over again. But it's hard to say that during the process. And frankly, that just comes down to, do you have the grit to become an entrepreneur? Do you have the grit to put in that dedication, that hard work, to make the sacrifices, to put everything on the line? And those that do usually have a higher aptitude for success. I couldn't afford to fail, and that really was one of my main driving factors. And furthermore, I was motivated by the fact that you got one life to live. And when you die, I always thought you turned into dirt and that's it, you're done. Well, I want to spend every last dollar I can on my last day. I want to look back and say I had no regrets, and I don't want to work my whole life. So the ability that this company has created for me to have a lifestyle where I can still own and run a business, but also have the flexibility where I was able to redefine retirement and make each day or design each day the way I see fit. And to me, that's retirement. Some days I still go to work. Some days I don't. And that to me is my form of retirement. I get to decide what I want to do today. And I've empowered a great group of executives to run my business. So backing up for a second, it's really tough being an entrepreneur, and don't expect quick success. You just simply can't expect that. And you got to keep your nose down. You gotta play smart. You gotta take lots of risk and be aggressive, but at the same time too, being conservative in how you do that. Those are some of the toughest times I ever went through. There were many times I thought about giving up. There were times I thought about, moving away. There are times I thought about just, leaving a bunch of debt on the books. It just gets really hard. But sometimes you realize you got to actually get away from the business, get clarity, take a vacation, and prevent burnout. Because if you don't take care of yourself, you can't take care of your business. And I learned a lot through those hardships. And now I'm trying to replicate or duplicate what I've learned as I'm selling franchises of my business all across the country now to help other real estate passionate entrepreneurs start their own business, but most importantly, avoid all those pitfalls I had along the way, learning this business the hard way. I'm able to give them now a proven process and system. So everything is for a reason. If it was easy, everybody'd be doing it. The fact that it's really hard and it's really challenging, you're onto something, because that's when you're innovating. That's when you're paving the trail. And so staying focused and staying motivated during those hard times is really critical.
Yeah, and you touched upon a lot of things I want to bring up and ask you later. But, you keep saying that you innovated. So how big is this property market, I guess property management, landlord market? And because you have another competitor in front of you. So you said it was mostly diversified into smaller groups. And if, depending on the size, what are your plans for the next 2 years to, keep growing and keep winning over business?
Well, right now we're expanding nationwide to get into other markets. We got 14 offices in 11 states. We got a couple in Texas, Maryland, Georgia, Colorado, Arizona, Iowa, Milwaukee, Nevada. We're located throughout the Twin City, or throughout the country, but we're based in Twin Cities, Minnesota, Minneapolis, St. Paul area. And here we're about 60% market share of the rental market, and we're trying to spread to other markets so we can establish ourselves there. The market is quite large. To put that into perspective, it's about 28 to 40%. Sorry, it's actually bigger than that. The average nationwide rental property saturation rate is about 38%. So what that means is 4 out of 10 homes in really any neighborhood in America are rental properties. It means about 40% of people rent or own rental properties. Well, that's a huge market. And frankly, when you're catering to both sides like I am, where I help homeowners find tenants, frankly, unless you're living in a box, you're likely to be my customer one day. Whether it's when you downsize, to go into a senior home, or whether it's when you upsize because, you had a townhome and you married another person who has a townhome and now you're consolidating into one home. or maybe you're buying your first investment property to have some passive income. Whatever the reason may be, you potentially are my customer at one point in time. So the demographic is huge, the industry is fragmented, and our value proposition is unmatched. So we have not slowed down. We are a 5-time Inc. 500 honoree, which makes us one of the fastest growing businesses in America for 5 consecutive years. At one point, having over 4,000% growth year over year. So we've really don't see ourselves slowing down. Our acquisition model is through just awareness. We're running a lot of 60-second TV commercials and radio spots to let people know that they don't have to sell in a down market, they can rent. We show people how to analyze their rental property returns, because a lot of people look at rental properties differently. They say, I make $100 a month in cash flow, but I'm always a little stressed out about it, so I think I'm just going to sell the property. Well, did you know that sometimes that $100 a month in cash flow might be the best investment you've ever made in your entire life? Think about it compared to your 401k or your savings account. Most rental properties will see a 6 to 18% rate of return on their cash invested. That's known as your cash on cash rate. That's where you take the cash you invested, in the down payment, and you divide it by the actual cash flow annually, and you'll see that you're making 6, 10, 12, 18% on the money you put down year over year. And then if you look at your internal rate of return, which takes into consideration amortization, depreciation, and tax deductions that you now get as a result of being a rental property owner, you're looking at sometimes 20, 30% internal rates of return. So tell me if you have an investment that does that well. And I can tell you probably don't. Not many people do, but not many people know how to analyze the rate of return on real estate. So we're pointing people out, we're educating large audiences on how to determine how valuable real estate is. And then we're pointing out the fact that Warren Buffett is trying to buy as many properties as he can. He's one of the world's richest men. The world's largest hedge fund in Chicago just bought $6.6 billion worth of real estate, becoming the world's largest landlord. What does this all have in common? All of them are buying. But what do we know in the marketplace? Many people are trying to sell right now. So what does that mean? The gurus are buying and the amateurs are selling. Bingo, there's a problem here. And so we're really educating the audience to say, listen, look at what these pros are doing. They're not selling in a down market. They're renting long-term in a down market. These are how they make huge returns, and they've invested billions of dollars doing it. You should do it too. Give us a call and we'll do it for you. That's an example of a spot that we would run on, say, a sports talk station or a political talk station, letting people know we exist, the value that we bring, how much we cost, and how we can help them. Has helped us cater to a whole new audience of just everyday property owners, the small Joe, the regular Joe, the guy who inherited a home or took a job and relocated somewhere else. He's now earning passive income, sometimes some of the best income he's ever earned on any investment in his life, just by outsourcing his landlord services to us. And many of our clients will be with us 5, 6, 7, 8 years. And that's the great part of our business, is the residual recurring revenue stream that it creates for its owner as well.
Yeah, and that, you actually said that you were also, you play both sides of the coin. So how does that work for the, the tenants that are looking for properties? Do you advertise? How do you advertise to them about renting versus buying?
We really pride ourselves in the fact that we can rent most properties in about 12 days, and this directly ties into how we reach tenants. Wow. We put our properties on 230 websites around the nation, things like Trulia and Zillow, Realtor.com, Rentals.com, etc. And we have developed a proprietary piece of software that was actually just voted the most innovative product in all of real estate by the American Business Association this year. It's called Rent Feeder, and it's a rental property marketing software. And it's what I give to all my rental property agents. Our job is to go out and get clients. Then we give those clients to our rental real estate agents, who then use Rent Feeder to market the properties. They show the property to tenants. The tenants then qualify themselves, and we run it by our owner to put a deal together. But it's those websites that are generating about 90% of our tenant leads, and then signs, referrals. Our own website are generating the rest.
Okay. Yeah, because I was reading that you guys have actually, I forget which article I was reading, but I was reading that, sometimes there are times where you guys have more tenant applications than you have properties, right?
Oh, wait, big time. That's a huge differential there. For example, last month I had 60,000 renter leads, and
Wow.
I only had 1,000 properties that were available for them to move in. There's a huge problem there. And so when you hear me talk about going on the radio, I spend about $200,000 a month in Minnesota on radio. I'm the biggest advertiser in all of radio in the Midwest. And I do this to fill in that differential. I need more homes to rent. I have all the renters I can ever muster up, but I have a 600 to 1 renter to property ratio. I need more rentals. And so that's why I'm spreading across the nation. That's why I'm spending so much in customer acquisition and education. Frankly, it's a great problem to have. All we need to do is just get new customers, and we're doing a pretty darn good job of that. We're adding about 400 or 500 properties under management a month. We are leasing about 1,000 properties a month, new properties a month. So we're really growing, but we'd love to grow at a much faster rate. But it's just really tough to find people who want to take on being a landlord, and we're trying to educate them that it's not really that stressful. Just outsource it to us. We'll make you some money and let you know if we ever need your help.
Yeah, that's a great business model. So, a lot of people listening to this, they're either up and comers or they're still thinking about a startup or, starting a business, and they don't really know how hard it can be. I know you touched upon a little bit about what happened in your early stages, but what are some obstacles that you're facing, and how do you stay focused on your main goal?
Obstacles I'm facing now, I'm learning how to be an absentee business owner. That's really a new process. I'm also learning how to be a remote worker because I'd like to not be a slave to my business anymore. So I'm looking to winter. I live in Minnesota where the winters are like freaking Alaska here.
Well, I'm in Toronto, so.
Oh, you know a bit about that then, yeah. So I'm trying to escape winter. So I'm learning, those are some current obstacles. But in growing a business, there are some things I learned that maybe aren't so much obstacles, but I can help people prevent some obstacles. You have to take hiring very, very seriously. It is one of the biggest investments you'll ever make in your business is when you hire people, yet people often look at hiring as kind of like annoying, time-consuming, and it just not something people get excited about. We had to change the way we look about hiring. We get excited about hiring. It's like welcoming somebody else in the family. We're investing a lot of money, $30,000 to $200,000 in one person on an annual basis. Right. I get excited about investing that amount of money, and I expect a lot for it. And so looking at hiring is a very important process. 2, you're going to need a lot less money than you ever thought. A lot of people are so focused on having money, and I can't get started until money. A lot of people are also focused on timing. It's just not the right time, they say, or this is a barrier. Or I got kids right now, or I just can't afford to take the risk. Well, nobody really ever can. And that's the excuse that every other person makes that prevents them from being an entrepreneur. If everybody had it all figured out and all the right amount of money and they had the right timing every time they started a business, well, it just doesn't exist. So if you got a good idea enough that you're willing to put your own money into it and take the risk, you need to go and get started. You don't need to have a finished product. You just have to have a minimal viable product. You got to go out there and let the market see it, test it, touch it, try it. And, you have to be prepared to fail, but don't be relentless. Or you got to be also relentless in your pursuit of success. And so, frankly, you're going to need a lot less money. You need to go to market. You don't need your perfect product ready to go yet. And all you need to do is go get started. And because if you never go and get started, you're just going to always have one obstacle in front of you or another that's going to tell you why you can't do it or why the timing isn't right or I don't have enough money. Well, I started with $3,000. I just got fired. I had no timing to spare as far as making money. I was about to be broke. In fact, I mentioned I got evicted. I put the risk on my shoulders and said, this is all I can do. I got to do it. And I'm young enough to, make it up later. So start sooner than later. And you can't be risk adverse to do this. Obstacles are usually put in front of you by the people that are trying to run the business. And they're usually obstacles put there by themselves. I'm just trying to help those people avoid those self-imposed obstacles.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I was reading about what you said about that in your article. You touched upon that again too, and it hits a chord because I think everybody, practices their excuse muscle. You could say, everybody always says there's a very lot of people who actually look at the bright side of things when they're trying to do something. They always say, well, this might happen or this might happen, and that stops them a lot from doing, doing things that will, make them financially free maybe in the future.
Uh-huh.
So, we're coming towards the end of the show. There's a couple more questions, but as an entrepreneur, I know that you've probably had this, but we get dozens of ideas every day. How did you decide that doing professional landlord was the best idea to pursue, and how did other people pick winning ideas?
Well, great ideas are worthless. Everybody's got a dozen of them, and they're just that. They're easy to come by. But your ability to execute even a bad idea can be very lucrative. I mean, a guy sold 1 million pet rocks once.
Right, yeah, I read that Wikipedia article.
Would anybody ever thought that that was a good idea? No. But it was. It was a good idea. And frankly, you're going to have way more naysayers about when you go to people and say, what do you think of this idea? And you go to your buddy who's maybe an IT consultant and say, I want to start a landlord company. Well, one, what does he know about that? And two, he's probably going to try and poke holes through it that he really has no experience poking holes through. So the point is plenty of people are going to try and naysay you. Plenty of people have lots of unsolicited feedback or poor feedback. There's a chapter in a book I like called Rework. And it's written by Jason Fried, who's a technology entrepreneur, very successful. And the chapter is, I forget the title of the chapter, but there's a saying in it that talks about, imagine if you're a business owner, you own a restaurant, you got a great chef, puts on a great menu, and you're a very big success. And you have a regular customer that comes in all the time. He's one of your VIP customers. In fact, he's your biggest customer. But he comes in one day, and he has a strange request. He says to the chef, I'm your biggest customer, but I'm looking at your menu here, and I don't see banana-flavored lasagna. And it's my favorite item. I love banana-flavored lasagna. Chef, I'm not going to come to your restaurant anymore unless you start making me banana-flavored lasagna. Do you or do you not make him banana-flavored lasagna? My opinion, you absolutely do not. That is banana-flavored lasagna, as we call it here at Renter's Warehouse. That is the feedback of one. And a lot of people can get influenced by the feedback of one. And if you're trying to run a business, you have to create proven processes and systems that are going to automate or make efficient processes in order to be a real success. And when you start stepping out and say, I'm just going to be a custom guy. Well, most people know a little something about customization, right? It's expensive. You know why? Because it requires standalone, special interest, special person to handle it because it can't be automated because it's one time, it's customized, it's not going to fit into a process. And when you start doing that, especially as a startup, you're going to really spend a lot of time on one customer not making money. So I look at it as you got to streamline your processes. You can't cater to everybody. And the customer's usually wrong. But when the customer's telling you you're wrong and there's multiple customers and many customers over a period of time telling you wrong, then you're probably wrong. But you got to listen to your customers, but you can't put all that weight into the fact that this is the feedback of a few. I need to know the feedback of a lot. Otherwise, the feedback really isn't valuable. And so when you're thinking about starting a business, you got to get the feedback of a lot of people. Otherwise, just don't get the feedback at all because it's worthless.
What's a lot for you? Like, what would be a lot for someone who's starting out?
Well, for one, I would only get feedback from those that had relevant experience to offer.
Right.
If, like I said, I was going to be a technology company and a property management company. So I spoke with technology gurus and real estate gurus about my idea. And they're the ones who helped me shape the company. They're the ones that say, you know, what I didn't ask them for their feedback. I didn't tell them, hey, this is what I want to do. And what do you think of that? No, I asked them, what should I do? I'm looking about getting into the property management business and I want to be technology focused. That's all I got. If I were to do that, what would you want to see in your property manager? As a real estate investor that has 100 properties, if I were to be your property manager, tell me the ingredients in which I would have to have in order to get your business. And I asked many people. And then I'd ask the IT guys and say, you know, what do you think, what's technology cost? What kind of technology would make me better at this? If you were to help start my business, what technologies would I need in order to become efficient right at the gate? And so they actually helped create my business. Instead of asking for feedback, I asked them for advice. Advice to help me create my business, not advice on the business I've already created. And so that was very powerful for me to get get the feedback of what people are missing and want from the marketplace, and then use that feedback to create my business, not the opposite way around.
Right. Yeah. And a lot of people actually ask people that have nothing to do with the industries they're going to go into for
Their
advice.
buddy, yeah, their friend, so and so. Well, that's not good advice, probably.
Yeah, I
He might
agree.
be good advice to tell you about what you should do with your girlfriend or where you have dinner, but when it comes to starting a business, unless that person has really relevant experience, that's banana flavored lasagna, and you just don't need it.
I love that quote. I'm going to use it from time to time now. So I don't know. I don't know if everybody who's listened to this has read your entrepreneur article, but you talked about two interesting things that I haven't really seen before, and I want to ask you. So a lot of people, they always say, "Oh, I want to retire with like $1 billion." I want to make $1 billion, or I want to retire like the age of 25, whatever. You specifically said, I'm going to need $7 million to retire, and I want to do it by the age of 27. Why those numbers, and why 27? I haven't seen it done, and I think it's pretty smart. So I just want to ask you why.
I figured I'd live to be about 75 years old, and I said if I wanted to live to 75 years old and I wanted to have wealth enough to live a lifestyle that's comfortable, where I could travel when I want, I can go to the grocery store and buy whatever groceries I want. We're not really having to look at the budget. I can, wear the nicer clothes, and I can enjoy financial stability. And I found in my place in Minnesota, this was my thought. These were my thoughts 7 years ago. I thought if I had $200,000 a year, damn, that would be great. Especially if I didn't ever have to work again. If I just got to sit back and collect $200,000 a year, let me ask you this: if I were to ask you if you could just stop working right now today, and you never have to work again, but I'll give you $200,000 a year to just do nothing, you'd probably strongly consider that, wouldn't you? A lot of people would. And frankly, that was my thought. I said, if I can get to the point where I have enough money, $7 million divided by 35 years, $200,000 a year. Okay, that's what I'm going for. Well, I stayed in the business a little longer. I amassed a larger fortune than that. And what was also neat is I never had to sell my business either. So I acquired the wealth I needed. I was able to retire based on the cash created. And then I still own my business, which is actually kicking out cash as well, in addition to the fact that it's growing and kicking out more cash each year. So I have like a double form of retirement. And then also, one of the first things I did is I pre-funded my retirement. I took several $1 million and pre-funded my 401k, pre-funded a Roth IRA and some other different style investments, some insurances and things like that. And so that even if I lost the money that I now still have left, I still have funded my retirement. And then I did things like pay off my house and cars. So I always had a house and a car and a pre-funded retirement. Now, frankly, if I lost all my money again, I could still stay afloat and not be a bum. So I made some safe moves along the way. I was a saver along the way. I just put all my time and money in the business, and it paid off. So I'm not driven by money. I'm driven by lifestyle choices. I want a special lifestyle. I want to be able to have great freedom and liberty. I want to be able to wake up each day and decide what I want to do that day, and that be the biggest job I have. And that's what I wanted, and I wanted it while I was young, and I want it while I'm old. And so I made the sacrifice to say I don't need to be the richest man, and I don't need to be the most successful, most coveted businessman in the world. I'm happy with where I got. I'm happy with the lifestyle I have. And frankly, happiness comes in different shapes and sizes to everybody else. And to me, $7 million was a number I thought would make me happy and allow me to do things that also made me happy, like play golf, drive race cars, go shopping, take my wife to the beach, whatever. Instead of going to work and responding to emails and handling security deposits and move in and move out worksheets and leasing properties and negotiating deals, I'd rather do the opposite. And so I just worked really hard at one thing so I would never have to do that one thing again and do the things that I wanted to do. And that was my mindset. Those were my numbers. And I just paid attention to that the whole time.
That's really smart, because a lot of people don't really start out with a number in mind. And, they always think that you need to make millions and millions of dollars, like $100 million to be retired and, have a great life. But you really put into perspective that we really haven't seen a lot lately.
Every goal a person has needs to be, I think, needs to be what I call SMART. Specific is the S, measurable, attainable, realistic, and timely. So when you create a goal, the goal is worthless unless it's really specific, it's measurable, it's attainable, it's realistic, and it's timely. So for me, I said I needed $7 million by the time I was 27, and that was my goal. So that's specific, it's measurable, it's attainable, it's realistic, and the timely part by age 27. So that was the goal. Those are my measurables. I know if I'm on or off track, if I'm performing to goal or not. And I kept that in mind as I do with other things like, your business will have goals, your life will have goals, your family will have goals, but make them smart.
Exactly. I agree. So we're coming towards the last 5 minutes of the show. And I'm just going to ask you a couple questions that might help people looking for resources and just looking to learn a little bit more about entrepreneurship.
Okay.
So what is one resource that you use daily that really helps you in your business that you recommend to our listeners?
I'm a Dropbox fan, huge Dropbox fan. As I start to work remotely, I have all my files in Dropbox and I can access it anywhere I have a internet connection. So if I'm in Florida, I'm in Amsterdam, or I'm in Minnesota, or I'm at my home office or my work office, I have access to every file in the cloud in my Dropbox. And it's so cheap, it's so easy. It replaces kind of like your My Documents folder on your computer, so it's not like you have to log in and share things all. It's just amazing. Right. Cool.
Yeah, I mean, I use it with my friends all the time. It's amazing. I agree.
Yeah.
And you just talked about rework, but if you had one book to recommend to the audience, I would get them ahead. Which one do you think it would be if it's not rework?
I would say the book Traction. By Gino Wickman. This was the single most influential thing in my business. It helped me get organized. It helped me determine the key metrics in my business that I needed to know in order to determine if I was going good or bad, if business was going good or bad. It also helped me create productive meetings and avoid unproductive meetings. It also created culture and helped me understand and establish core values for my business so that I could use them to hire upon. This book is revolutionary. I call it many people call it the entrepreneurial operating system. If you think about your computer for a second, it's probably got Windows or Mac, iOS. Well, your business probably runs on Traction. I know at least 150 different highly successful executives in very large businesses that practice this, and it's kind of a little known secret among CEOs. Entrepreneurial Organizational Strategies is the company. The book is called Traction by Gino Wickman, and absolutely any person going into business that's getting any sort of scale to their business needs to read and adopt this practice. I guarantee it.
Never heard of it, but it looks really interesting, so I'm going to take a look at it. And I'll put a link for the readers so they can get it.
Wonderful.
So a lot of people, when they start a business, they really don't take into account the work-life balance. How do you manage that when you are looking to start a business?
I wasn't good at it at first. I'm good at it now, but that takes a lot of, it's hard to do. That's stressful too, to have a work-life balance. There's always, but one thing you got to be clear, there's always things to do. There's always deadlines to meet, and there's always tomorrow. If you're burnt out, you're frustrated because you had a bad experience with somebody, and now you're mad at everybody else the rest of the day, you're not being beneficial to your business or your employees or your customers. We have employees take things called clarity breaks. Let's say you're in the maintenance department and you just get your butt screamed at because a tenant has no AC and it's hot out that day, and you just told them that you can't get someone there till tomorrow. And they just light you up, and it is what it is, but that's the nature of the business. Well, now you're mad, now you're annoyed, you just ruined your day. You weren't trying to ruin that person's day, but you're just trying to do your job. Well, instead of calling the next person and moving on to the next piece of business, you need to get your mind right. Otherwise, you're going to burn out, you're going to hate this job, you're going to hate people. So go take 15 minutes. Go take a clarity break, we call it. Go have a soda, go walk around the hall, chat somebody up, go play the Pac-Man machine here at the office, whatever. Take 15 minutes for you. Sometimes that work-life balance is just that 15 minutes. Sometimes it's making one Friday off a month so you can do something you like. Sometimes it's swearing off the weekend and diving into your business instead. But the point is you got to have a work-life balance. You got to remember you're one of the ingredients to work. And if you're burning out, you're spending time, you're not happy, you're grumpy, your wife's not happy, it's just going to make your life harder and your business harder, and it's really not benefiting you at all. Another great chapter in my favorite book, Rework, and I won't go into it for time reasons, but there's a chapter in there called Fire Your Workaholics. Now think about that. Do you really want to fire your guys working the most? Well,
No.
they don't think so either. But the chapter gets you to think about it. That you should fire your workaholics because they're going to burn out and they're not going to be good advocates for your business. And so you as a good manager, you also have to make sure people don't burn out and that they have a good work-life balance. That chapter will give you some insight on that.
Amazing, amazing. Well, I know you have to go, but you really gave us a lot of valuable information today, and I really appreciate you for coming on.
My pleasure.
Where can people find you online? If they want to learn more about you as an entrepreneur, and where can people find Renters Warehouse if they want to learn more?
I got a few things. I love to engage people after these podcasts. If you want to find me on Twitter, it's just at Brenton Hayden. And if you want to check out our franchise offering, if anybody's a really real estate passionate entrepreneur and wants to maybe start their own Renters Warehouse, we have major markets available. They can go to professionallandlords.com. And if you think you're a customer of Renters Warehouse, maybe we can help you rent or manage your real estate. You just go to renterswarehouse.com as well. And then probably I'm most active, if anywhere, on social media on my LinkedIn page. That's where I have a very large network. I'm sharing. I write blogs Mondays and Thursdays, usually in the real estate or entrepreneurial space. So follow me there, and you'll see what I'm doing for Entrepreneur Magazine and some other things. And hopefully we can engage one another and do a business deal or just offer some advice from time to time.
Yeah, that would be amazing. So thank you so much for coming on the show. I was looking forward to this interview for a really long time because from just your articles, you looked like you were really smart and bright entrepreneur. So thank you for coming on. I hope our readers really like it as much as I did. And I hope you have a great day.
It's truly my pleasure, and thanks for doing this. I think it's a great thing that you're putting on these podcasts to help entrepreneurs out there. It's really admirable, and so appreciation right back at you.
All right, thank you so much.
Have a great day.
You too.